So if this leaked House of the Dragon Season 3 scene is real from Woke the Dragon, we may have just gotten the most uncomfortable moment in the entire series. According to reports circulating online, Aemond Targaryen visits Alicent after she warns him that Rhaenyra is coming for King's Landing. Realizing he can no longer hold the city, Aemond prepares to leave for Harrenhal. And during what is supposedly a goodbye between mother and son, Aemond allegedly leans in and attempts to kiss Alicent on the lips in a romantic or intimate way. Alicent immediately recoils, pulls away, and reacts with disgust. If true, this scene would completely reframe one of the most complicated relationships in House of the Dragon. Let's talk about what it could mean. Aemond's mommy issues have been building for years. The thing is, this wouldn't actually come out of nowhere. Ever since Season 2, House of the Dragon has been quietly establishing that Aemond's relationship with women is deeply connected to his relationship with his mother. Think about the brothel scenes. When Aemond returns to the woman who comforted him as a child, the show goes out of its way to emphasize that she is significantly older than him. She's not presented as a youthful love interest. She's presented almost as a maternal figure, someone who provides comfort, someone who listens, someone who accepts him, someone who makes him feel safe. In many ways, she gives Aemond something Alicent never really could. Not because Alicent didn't love him, but because Alicent was constantly trapped by politics, religion, duty, and survival. Aemond grew up in a household where affection was scarce and expectations were enormous. And unlike Aegon, who coped through excess and self-destruction, Aemond coped through obsession. Obsession with strength, obsession with control, obsession with proving himself worthy. One of the defining traits of Aemond's character is that he desperately wants validation. As a child, he wanted respect from his siblings. He wanted approval from his family. He wanted recognition from his father. And perhaps most importantly, he wanted Alicent to see him as the son who could save everything. The son who was worthy. The son who mattered. That's why so many of his actions seem driven by a need to prove himself, claiming Vhagar, training relentlessly, stepping into leadership when Aegon couldn't, taking military command. Everything is about demonstrating value. Everything is about earning love through achievement. The problem is, Alicent stopped believing in him. Season 2 fundamentally changes their relationship. At first, Alicent saw Aemond as the dependable son, the responsible son, the competent son. But by the end of Season 2, she sees something else. She sees what he's becoming. The destruction at Rook's Rest, the increasingly ruthless decisions, the willingness to embrace violence, the possibility he may be even more dangerous than Aegon. For perhaps the first time in his life, Aemond begins losing the one parent's approval he cared most about. And that is devastating for someone whose identity is built around earning that approval. If the leak is accurate, I don't think the scene is trying to tell us that Aemond is in love with Alicent. That interpretation feels too simplistic. Instead, it may be showing a complete collapse of emotional boundaries. Aemond has spent years confusing love, validation, admiration, comfort, and loyalty. He doesn't really understand healthy relationships. His closest emotional connection outside his family was a brothel worker who functioned almost like a surrogate mother. His entire worldview is warped by trauma, isolation, and an upbringing that never allowed him to develop normally. So when Alicent rejects him politically, when she effectively tells him he has lost, when she chooses peace over his war, Aemond may desperately try to hold on to that connection. Not because he understands what he's doing, but because emotionally he's unraveling. What makes this leak fascinating isn't actually Aemond, it's Alicent, because if she reacts with immediate disgust, that tells us everything. There's no hesitation, no confusion. Alicent instantly recognizes that a line has been crossed, and she rejects it. That moment would symbolize the complete destruction of their relationship, not just politically, not just emotionally, but fundamentally. Mother and son are no longer connected by trust, no longer connected by loyalty, no longer connected by shared purpose. At that point, Aemond is truly alone. One thing House of the Dragon consistently explores is how isolation transforms people into monsters. Daemon becomes isolated, Aegon becomes isolated, Rhaenyra becomes isolated, and now Aemond may be reaching that same point. If this scene happens shortly before he leaves for Harrenhal, it could represent the final severing of his last meaningful human connection, the last person whose opinion mattered, the last person he wanted approval from, the last person he wanted to love him. And when even Alicent rejects him, there may be nothing left holding him back. Of course, this is all based on a reported leak, and until the episode actually airs, details could be incomplete, altered, or taken out of context. But if this scene is real, I don't think it's there for shock value alone. I think it's meant to show just how broken Aemond has become, not as a conqueror, not not as a dragon rider, not as a prince, but as a deeply damaged young man whose need for love, approval, and validation has become twisted into something unhealthy and tragic. And Alicent's rejection may be the moment that finally pushes him beyond the point of no return. But what do you think? If this leak is accurate, is this a natural extension of Aemond's character arc, or does it go too far? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.